Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. As you could see, I just switched my guest off so I could do my introduction. Welcome to the session of Inspiring Conversation, and just a reminder of why I am, or yes, why I am doing this. Inspiring conversations is, for me, it's all about creating conversations that really matter. We are diving into ways to connect deeply, break down barriers, and build moments that inspire trust and growth, whether it's with your team at work or in your everyday chats. We'll bring more positivity, realness, and impact into every conversation. And my aim is that you, even though it's just this much, that you take something out of the conversations that I have with fabulous people, then you can be inspired. And speaking of which, my guest today is a young man, which his name is Eric Simpson, and he is definitely not related to the Simpsons. And he did something remarkable. And but that, like, the topic is that we are going to talk about lessons from skydiving. And that is, skydiving is enough to raise my hairs. Like, I have goosebumps whenever I say that word. And he will talk about this, how he gained insights from skydiving experiences and how they applicated to his personal growth and embracing life challenges and how it can do the same. So, Eric, welcome.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm excited to raise some hairs on your arms.
Ugh. Well, yes, but let's start with, you are an American,
Yeah.
you are a US citizen, and you moved almost a year ago to England.
Yep.
Tell people, which town of all the towns in England you chose, which town?
I am living in Liverpool.
So how is it? Let's start with, okay, I'm a Man United fan, so like I would never live there, but I don't know how maybe it's good. Do you understand the people who live there? How do you say, they are scousers
Scouse.
or something?
Yeah,
Scouse?
Scousers.
Yeah. So I okay, let's start with this. Why and what got you to, like, tell us about the before and after? Why in like why didn't you move to Denmark, or like why England and stuff? So take it away, Eric.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because a dream of mine for over 15 years was to live in Europe. Like, that was the dream, but I never took any action or step aside from maybe applying to a job here or there, to make it happen. And at the beginning of last year, I said, nope, it's time to actually put action to this dream. So I hired a coach who specialized in relocating people abroad. And in our very first meeting, she's like, have you thought of the UK? And I had kind of ruled the UK out because of Brexit. And my dream was sort of like an EU country so I could get citizenship or permanent residency and have the freedom of mobility. But she's like, no, there's a visa that you qualify for only 6 more months. After that, you lose qualification. And basically, the only qualifier was I have a degree from a certain list of universities from the last 5 years. And so I'm like, great. It gives me opportunities to work without sponsorship if needed, rent apartments. Like, it was just sort of like you are a member of society because you have a degree. And so
So
that's how I chose
yeah.
UK.
And what did you just do? Spin the wheel and say like, "Oh, I choose Liverpool," or like, how on earth? Like, it's not like I know they have a great football team, or so they say. I would never. I did not say that. But how become like did you just take a map of England and say, "Oh, Liverpool, I will go there"?
No, I was initially thinking Scotland, to be fair. You know, either
Okay,
sort
yeah,
of the
yeah.
Edinburgh, Glasgow, either one of those two. And so I booked my one-way flight because I'm originally from Seattle. So I booked my flight, got into Edinburgh, and I had 2 nights of hotels booked, and that was like the extent of my planning. And I have 4 suitcases, a backpack, and a guitar. And I decided in that moment, I'm like, Scotland doesn't feel right in this moment. There was just something in my gut. Like I'm a very like intuition, gut-based thinker that was just like, no, go more northern England. So I rented a car, first time driving right hand side of the car.
Yeah,
And
and left side of the road, like yeah, yeah,
yep.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
You're crazy. Well, okay,
yeah.
continue.
Um, and I just chose Liverpool as my sort of like, I'm going to drive there because it had the cheapest hotels and it had a big train station so that I could kind of go out and do my search. It was kind of nice and central located. It was cheap. There was accessibility. And as I just kind of got to know the city a bit more in my sort of search, I just said, why don't I look here? Like, and so it was kind of like Liverpool chose me versus like I chose Liverpool. And so I found a flat and here I am.
But if you had a guitar, so that means that you are a musician somewhat.
Yep.
So you must have heard about the Beatles. So you must have like you had a hidden agenda. You wanted to meet the Beatles. Rap
Yeah.
Bessie, he great choice of country, but he is also like he lives in England, and he says city. So so like he is a good listener of this podcast. But I have like you mentioned two things,
Yep.
and let's start with the easy one, and that is the university. What university degree do you have? Because you mentioned the 5 years of so you could get on a particular uh, thing to get into the UK.
Yeah.
So which degree do you carry, or what do you
Yeah.
have?
So I got a master's of business administration, my MBA, from the University of Washington in Seattle, and I graduated
Okay.
in 2019.
All right. And then congratulations on that. And then the next question is, and my mind wandered immediately to only in America. Did you hire a location coach? Can you explain to the people who I have never in my life a location coach? Can you explain like is that a thing in the US or
So it's to be clear, it's a relocation. So someone who helps you like navigate and plan sort of like the big move. And so she started out, you know, she was in LA and then moved to China to do teaching. Like she got
uh-huh.
to do English teaching in China, and then has bounced around over the last 10 years. She's lived in 6 different countries. So she's gotten really good at sort of the bureaucracy and paperwork and understanding visas and everything like that. And she's like,
Ah.
there's a market for this, like someone who understands this language. Let me see if I can help people
It
who
it
also,
makes yeah, it
yeah, who
makes a
also
lot more
want to help.
sense now because I was just like, what? Only in America? There are so many things that is only in America, you know.
It's true.
But the reason for that we came in touch was via Podmatch, where we got meshed together, and they said I could be a great fit for you or vice versa. And immediately when we got together and you mentioned that you had taken the plunge and moved, and about the Liverpool thing, and I was in awe because as a social educator or former social educator, no, probably I will never cease being a social educator. So I find it very interesting and great that young people take the chance and do something different, step out of their comfort zone. And then we started to talk and we decided that we could have this conversation. And then I realized that you are a daredevil. So our conversation will be about lessons from skydiving. So if you could take us through what that, like, why is it that lessons in skydiving can teach you about, well, life?
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, like I was afraid of heights. And so
Uh-huh.
skydiving was never on the list of things that I would do. And it would only be, within the last few years that I would understand the process that I went through to, actually go from afraid of heights to jumping out of airplanes. Was recognizing that there was like, it wasn't necessarily fear that I was feeling, but more of like this anticipation, this like excitement, which can often be confused with like fear. And
I
that's not
got
to
chills.
say that,
I got chills now. I was just like, oh my God, I can't. Just imagining this, I'm just like horrified. Well, sorry.
yeah,
Okay, yeah. So
but
it's not fear.
that's not to say that what you're feeling or what other people might be feeling when they think of skydiving is like, oh, I should just go jump out of an airplane. Like, not what I'm saying, but it's like that's the looking back for me. That's what I've realized. And so it was just little steps of like going on, smaller, thinner, like suspension, like swinging bridges, and getting used to that feeling. Or in Chicago, there's one of the tall towers. It's forever known as the Sears Tower, but I think it's now known as the Willis Tower. There's an observation deck on like the 109th floor where you can like step out on a glass platform and look straight down and have nothing beneath you.
You have mentioned two things. I have tried the swinging bridge in Vancouver, and I thought I would die. Like I was just like, no, 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 no. But I went through. I got some focus point, and it's just like,
Yep.
oh my. Yes. Okay. Continue.
And
I'm too old.
and so like those were some of the things that like I was doing to kind of push myself. I'm like, yes, there's a sense of risk, but they're still largely safe. Like I know the bridge you're talking about in Vancouver. I love the Capilano suspension bridge. Like it's a beautiful area. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But there was just one day at my like when I was fresh out of university, from undergrad, I was in a, first job out of college, didn't really love it, messaging my sister back and forth. And I just kind of said, I want to jump out of an airplane. And she just thought I was being sort of sarcastic, like I'm having a bad day of work. And she said, she's like, well, I'll go with you, not realizing I was looking at a skydiving website. And I'm like, cool, here's the day, here's the time. And I left it at that. And so when I walked into like we were sharing an apartment at the time, I walked in and she's like in the fetal position on the couch, like, what are you talking about?
Well, Linda Simpson, a great Canadian, she says, I appreciate Eric's suggestion to be curious about feelings. For example, fear may be anticipation or excitement, and that's totally true. Hi, Linda.
Yeah.
So, but what is okay? And then your sister were at home, just like realizing what she had done
Yep.
or said yes to,
Yep.
And did she go with you, or?
Yeah, she couldn't be outdone.
Oh, by her brother. No, yes.
Yeah,
So you would
yeah,
have a advantage
right.
over her.
And so it was a really interesting experience because they do extensive safety training on the ground, like, you know, here's how you form your body, like when you're in the air. Um, you know, safety videos, harness checks, like showing the parachute and how, you know, if something goes wrong, there's backups in the parachute. So it's like, um, it's really reassuring. And like, I know there's still that level of anticipation, but like I had no fear going into that, which was really interesting.
Yeah,
And
you
even,
knew you were safe because of all the procedures and elements.
right,
Yeah.
right. And it's like it came time for my turn to go out, and I'm strapped to somebody, like it's a tandem jump, so it's not me only. And we get to the edge of the plane, and I realize I'm not touching the plane. I'm literally just hanging off of the harness while the instructor is sitting on the edge of the plane. And in that moment, all of a sudden, it was just like out the plane we went, and it was an incredible experience. So much so that I've been 4 times now.
Would you do it by yourself?
Yes, I am looking into becoming certified as a solo jumper. You have to be licensed and trained and certified.
But wait a minute, he didn't just like you must have like you were sitting there and then the door didn't just open and you fall out. Like he probably opened the door and said, "Okay, I will count to 3." He must have said something to you. So,
No, no,
hui,
yeah,
yeah. Well, yes. Okay. Now we have talked about that. It will. I think it will come back. But hi, Aishwarya from India. Lovely to see you. Linda, she's comments like no, Aishwarya. Sorry, she always says that skydiving is on her bucket list. Paragliding, that must be also awesome. But that is all in totally silence.
yeah.
I think I am. There's something. I think I'm scared of heights and everything. But how is it? Okay, well, then you tried that
Hmm.
and you came down to the ground. Your sister, you must have been screaming your heads off, like, "Yay, we did this!" and everything. And then you say, like, okay, how did you realize, and where did the insights come, so you could combine it to your, like, you are working as a coach. So how did you see a possibility in this to make so you could live and give others something about this experience? Because I know what you're talking about, but I didn't have to go to skydiving to quit my job and stuff. But like you are scared shitless, but like I changed my job, or I and then came COVID, and I worked as a waiter and whatnot. But how did you realize when landing, or the weeks after, or when you were the aftermath, that you thought, I can use this?
It's so that first jump would have been 2010, 2011. So, you know, more than a decade ago at this point. And I don't think it, for at the time, it was just something fun. It was just like,
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
tick it off the list. And,
Been there, done that.
but a couple years later, I'm like, no, I want to go back up again. So I went up for my birthday, just as like a celebratory, like, thing.
Yeah.
And a couple years later, I'm like, I want to go again. But it wasn't until the fourth time, and I had really started getting into coaching more at that point and learning under some of the best coaches in the world, that I started to realize there are lessons in all of the everyday things that we do what could this potentially teach me?
Yeah.
And so it was the fourth time jumping that I started to have this mentality of, this is no longer something that I'm doing for fun, but what can I also learn from this at the same time?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you have changed, because when you did it the first time, then as you say, you were young and stupid. Okay, maybe not stupid, but reckless, I would say. As a parent, I would say reckless. But now, like, now you have evolved, and you see the bigger picture, and I have, like, underneath us is your website, ericsimpsoncoaching.com, where you talk about the experience and stuff, and you are, like, using this. So, and I find it fascinating that you can combine those things with coaching, or how to, like, put the fear into words, or but you would never say to a person, like, okay, try skydiving and then we will talk.
no. So no, I would never say that unless the person that I'm talking to needs to hear that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I realized, after the first three jumps, is I did a bunch of work on my own sort of self, like self-awareness. Who am I? What are my values? All of these types of things. And for many years, my top three values were adventure, risk-taking, and courage.
Okay.
And I realized that these activities, like skydiving, were just me being my full, truest, authentic version of myself. And I didn't need to do it all the time, but I needed to go up every now and then to just really tap into that visceral depth of my being.
So how, because the question must then go to, okay, how does it teach us about overcoming fear in our personal and professional life? Like, what, okay, when you were 20 something, when you did it for first time, it was just like, yee,
Yeah.
something fun to do. But in the fourth time, and then something came out of it, and you, like, was that before, prior to, like, some months before you moved to England, or like, how did you just realize, okay, if I can overcome this fear, like, do this in a safe environment with a person that I trust, and yada yada yada, and like, how you, yes, how do you use it, and how can you teach it? Because, yes, as you say, we don't want to send everybody up to skydiving so you can have this interaction of, oh yes, you have to overcome your fear. So how did you use it in the beginning for yourself in your own personal life?
It's a fantastic question. So one of the biggest lesson that last time taught me is you have more control over the situation than you realize. So, like, skydiving's kind of in, I guess you could say three phases. There's the going up in the plane, the free fall, and then the parachute. And the going up in the plane is just sort of like the going up a roller coaster, the chain link, tink, tink, tink. Like, it's just sort of like you're building the anticipation something big is about to happen. And this could be done in life. Like, for me, moving abroad was that sort of anticipation, like going up the tracks, going up the plane. And then the free fall is the most chaotic. It feels like you have no control over the situation. You're falling at about 120 miles an hour or 190 kilometers an hour. Like, you're falling fast.
Yeah, you're like a bullet, just like, jush.
Yeah. But when I told my instructor that fourth time, I'm like, this is my fourth time. He's like, oh, so we're going to have some fun then, because you're not here just to do like a free fall and a parachute. And what he was teaching me things of, like, when we're in the air, if you want to slow down, you put your arms out a bit more. and
Yeah.
you kind of create a bigger sort of surface area because you can slow the free fall just a little bit. If you want to go faster, you tuck in. If you want to spin, you shift your arms like this, like. And so even in this chaotic environment, this like feels like there's nothing you can do to control it. You have so much control over the experience. And then the same goes with the parachute. Like you're still falling, but it's like you pull hard one way or the other, and you can do spins or you can slow down or whatever you want to do. And so it was those learnings that for myself, especially moving by myself to a country where I really knew absolutely nobody, that it's like I am in control of every bit of this experience. And when I'm working with a client and they're going through similar types of like, everything feels like it's spinning out of control, it's like, let's slow things down. Let's like, okay, what can you control?
So Rabasi, he asks, did preparing to jump help you face challenges, or did it become more of an addiction to adrenaline? The first time, it must have been the adrenaline that was just kicking in, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
because it's always, the first time is always something like, and then you get addicted because you want the same effect, but you never get it.
Yeah.
So the the challenges which Rap is talking about, like how could you put them in perspective with your own life? Like after the fourth time, like when you started to realize that you can use this to do stuff or to use as a beacon in your life, or like how you can do things in life. So how did it go in that direction?
Yeah, there's so many ways that I can take that question. And I'm just trying to figure out like where I want to actually go, because for me it was just like it was an invitate, like yes, there was the sort of addiction to adrenaline. But one of the things that I really noticed, like I noticed in all four jumps, but I really noticed in the last jump, was the solo divers that would go up. So it's like it wasn't just a group of like tandem divers that go up. It's you have solo divers that do it as well. And they're always the first out of the
Yeah,
plane.
yeah.
But you watch them the second they hit the ground, they've got their chute in their arms, they're back in the hangar, rolling it up, packing it, and they're on the next flight up. Like they don't miss a flight, so they're just up, down, up, down, up, down. And then also in the hangar is a model of a plane with an open door, so people can practice their holds and how, like, if we're going to do stunts or how can we position ourselves safely. So I started to notice the repetition and the practice and the I am getting really good at my craft versus just the addiction to the adrenaline and the adventure. And that's what I started to take as well, was anything that I'm doing, I am just getting better at being myself. So moving internationally, for example, is me stepping into those senses of adventure and courage and living out this dream of mine. Jumping out an airplane is the same thing. But then I can also use it and the lessons that I'm learning for myself when I'm interacting with clients or just people in general to say, like, all right, how are we going to hone your own skills, your own craft, your own sense of being in a way that is safe and controlled and all these types of things. Maybe it is go skydiving. Maybe it's go for a walk.
But when you start doing this, because you mentioned the skydivers, the solo skydivers, like they just go in and they start to prepare for the next and the next and the next. How doesn't it get, do you say monotonous? How, like it's always the same? But of course, if you tweak the arms or do this or that or whatever, but how in your mind when you are talking about this experience, like how much can you tweak the experience from tandem diving to the when the people you are coaching and you say I've done this four times or whatever, how you like how do you talk about it? Do you just say embrace it, let's slow down, do this, do that? Like, how do you talk about, go through a session with me, like take me through a session, because I'm just like, I'm trying to combine these stuff,
Yeah.
like, because there are so many elements in this conversation. We are talking about facing fears. We are talking about the liftoff and the climbing. We are talking about sitting in somebody's, like strapped to some other person, and then the door opens, and now it is, and then, like, so get me through, like, talk me through a session when you meet a person and you're coaching, when you, so how you had set up your coaching sessions, mentioning these elements of, and when you are getting to know this person, and
Hmm.
you say, okay, yeah, I can sense that you have fear, let's talk about fear, or slow down, like, take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of the things that sticks out to me is the as you said, the monotony, the repetition of
Yeah,
like just the up and down, up and down. That is true if you're operating in a vacuum where there are no external forces at play. So
okay,
every time you go up, you're getting a different experience because the wind might be slightly different, the clouds might be slightly different. Um, like there might be a little bit of turbulence. Like so, you're
yeah,
having to
yeah.
learn how to navigate the externalities of the world. And so that is a lot of what I do with clients is like, okay,
I, in a sense, that is how life is, because you never,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's always changing.
And one of the things that I struggled with so much in my life and is sort of this people pleasing, wanting to make sure I'm pleasing all of the people around me at the detriment potentially to myself. And so recognizing that in clients to say like you're preventing action towards your dreams or whatever this life that you're trying to build because you're afraid of what someone else is going to think. You're afraid of a gust of wind coming in and ruining the entire experience versus what is it you can control in the process? Because the process is going to happen regardless. So, how can you control your own actions? How can you better involve people or, you know, inform them or, prepare them? It's a lot of work like that because most of the people that I talk with are wanting to take big risks. And so like that's kind of what I attract because of my sort of life journey.
Can I ask you the age of your clients? Are they 23, or are they 43 or 63, or, like, because I remember, if you put it in a perspective of blocks, like, you finish high school or college, and then you go to university, then you get your dream job,
Yeah.
and then you work, and then you suddenly realize, what the hell am I doing? I wanted to be a pother. I wanted to make, like, something out of clay, or I was not cut out to be a farmer or whatever. So, because taking risk, some people, did you feel the urge after the fourth jump to take a risk? Or,
Yeah.
like, because you, Seattle is, like, it's far, far away. So that is interesting, like,
Mhm.
because, but then at that point you have been on the work, like, you have been working after university for X long time, and then you feel the necessity to, okay, the question comes, what the hell am I doing? Is this what I want? How do I change it? So did you experience after the fourth session, when you started realizing, oh, I can use this something, that you came, like, did you evaluate your own life after that fourth jump, or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just because the age-wise, that is also a thing. Because if the clients are 23, it's, as you say, if you would have met yourself as at 23 and you was like, oh, you're just adrenaline junkie. But then again, if you meet him at 33, then you are looking for something else.
Right.
So back to the clients, what are the age, how do you start, and everything, because it's personal, because you did it,
Yep.
you figured something out,
Yep.
but your experience, you can't do so and so to rub off your experience on another person. The only thing you can say is, it's totally all right. Nothing will happen, isn't it? Fear is to be overcome.
Yep.
Take chances. So take that for me. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm just in awe. Like, it's just, there are so many things clicking in my head.
Yeah. So most of the people that I work with are kind of in the 35, 40, 45 window, sort of mid to, late career, not necessarily, but sort of that mid career. They've been at it for 10, 15 plus years. And they've kind of hit that sort of, oh God, what has happened? Is this it kind of moment? So
Yeah, so you are getting the people, like, after they have been for X amount of, and like Linda is like, she likes the skydiving metaphors to how we can approach the considering of risk taking.
Yep.
Because you will eventually, okay, it's 1 in a million if something happened, but you will always land on the ground with 2 feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a, but when people approach you and you say to them, I know that coaching is not about telling them from your own experience, but you always put them in, like, picture this. So do they believe you, or do they, like, how do they, like, when you say, oh, take a look at skydiving, because I understand like, I understand the thing. As I told, like, when I told you first time, I was just like, oh, I would never do it, but in a sense I did it in another situation, and I was literally just, my fear was tremendous.
Yeah.
But how do you explain it to people so they, like, it's okay, I'm here, like, I did this, or because you're not supposed to talk about your own journey when you're coaching, in a sense.
I mean, I do. I use every element of my story, to kind of to show, like, I don't necessarily say, like, okay, I went skydiving, here's what I learned. Like, I don't lay it out so sort of black and white, but
Oh, yeah.
I pull the points. And it's like, yeah, there's the story of me skydiving, the story of me moving abroad, the story of me, deconstructing religious and political beliefs and changing my mind on so many things, so big fundamental shifts. And it's like, look, I'm still here. I'm still thriving. I'm still succeeding. I'm still moving forward. I'm still challenging myself and taking risks. And so many of the people that I've worked with, I've gone back and actually interviewed many of them. And they all say the thing that drew them to me was my ability to just share my story. And they're like, you had done it. And so I knew I could trust you to help me do the same thing.
Yeah, take the step, take the leap.
Mm-hmm.
But how is it, do you get leaders do they come to you, and do you apply, like, do you meet teams? Can you apply the skydiving mindset to inspire courage and resilience within teams? Can you do that?
I'm sure I could. I've never worked with teams. I've only ever done one-on-one sort of coaching and facilitation work. So, yeah, it would be really interesting to see how this could evolve into team level work, working in corporates, because there is something visceral about telling the story of skydiving that draws people in, whether you would do it yourself or not. Like, you are complete opposite of me, and yet we are engaged very heavily in this conversation.
Well, because I gave you this business idea, when your emporium starts like Eric Simpson coaching.com grows bigger, then I will get like maybe 1% of your. but yeah, okay. So of course, all elements can be taken in, but it is always on an individual basis, because the fear of failure, which holds people back. How do you, and when you're talking to them to take that first jump towards their goals, when they have figured out, I didn't want to be a business person, I wanted to be a pother or whatever the English word for like working with ceramics. What is it?
Potter?
A pottery, yeah, a potter.
Yeah.
So sometimes I make things so difficult, but that's the funny part. So because you can also be paralyzed by self-doubt.
Yeah.
And believe you me, my self-talk is just like, I have gone, yes, we all do it. And it's just because the mind is a muscle that, how many thoughts a day? Like 400,000 billion trillions something goes through your
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. I have no idea. It's more than we can ever comprehend.
Yeah. So this because when you meet people who are, and you hear this like, oh, you're afraid of failing, and have this great fear of failing. How do you talk to them about it, in a sense of, do you just say like, what is the worst that can happen?
So that's a great question, and it's actually one that I'm like living in the moment. So it's like the UK was never on my list, as I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, because I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm setting myself up for the success. And I told this coach that I'm like, like, what concerns me with the UK is the fact that if I get permanent residence or citizenship, I can't then have the freedom of mobility that I really long for. And she said something that was really helpful. She's like, that doesn't matter because it's still taking a step in the direction of what you're wanting to build. And so any action in that direction is good action versus just like, well, it's not the perfect, prime, exactly the specific thing that I wanted, therefore I'm not going to do it. It's like I'm using the example of moving abroad because it's my own personal one. But there's that risk of also feeling like, what if I do it and I don't like it? Or what if I do it and I change my mind? Will I be considered a failure? Will I be considered less than or dumb or any of these things? Is the self-doubt, the what ifs, the what if people look at me differently types of feelings. And that's what I'm dealing with right now because I've just made the decision to move back to the States.
What?
Yeah.
No, you just moved there. Like what?
Yeah.
Eric. Now I like, do you see this? What? Okay. What? But okay, you're forgiven. But what? I feel like I'm just like. But then we come again. Okay, Helga Kristín, she says like, it's starting a business. What is the worst that can happen? Like, it's every question. It's always the question about what is the worst thing that can happen. But okay, now you told me like you are moving back.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to choose. I can totally understand it because I have also lived abroad, and there are so many things that are pulling you back, because
Mhm.
I moved to Iceland when I got my twins, because then it was my family, the grandparents, the sibling, like whatever. You're moving back, okay? And that, but then you have to, isn't it? Do you consider if? Why should you consider it as a failure? What is the question that you have to ask yourself? Do you go back to when you were 23 because you were a moron back then, or do you go back to last year and say, well, okay, I did it? How many? Well, let me ask you this: how many people of your age have been living outside of the US?
That I know, or just
Just in the whole, like, yeah, or like, well, how many of your friends how many people you know that?
I would say a large majority who talk about doing things like this never end up doing it.
That was my phone. Just I forgot to put it on silence. So, so, so there are not, because there are things said about, uh, because some people in the US, they don't even have a passport, and they are just content, like they just like living in the little bubble of the US. Okay, North America is huge, huge,
It's huge.
and and so, but and I applaud you, because as a social educator, I want you to step out of your comfort zone and move, because we can always see life in a different perspective when you have, okay, maybe not from Seattle to London or Liverpool, but you could have moved to Vancouver. It was close. But you took the step.
Yeah.
And when you look back, then you just say, well, yeah, I did this. I'm proud of it. And maybe in 2 years' time, you say, I want to go back.
Yeah.
Or what? Like, but so it's probably real. Like the biggest impact is I did it, I've done it, and I feel great.
Yeah, and that's the exact conversation I had with a client last night, actually. You know, her dream is to also move abroad. She's in the US and she's wanting to live in Europe. And working through that self-doubt of like, well, what if I choose the wrong place, or what if I fail, or what if I can't succeed, like can't make enough money to survive, like all of there's an endless list of reasons.
Yeah, the questions are like they can be just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these were all questions that I had, and these are all questions that I have going back about myself. But one of the things that we were talking about was I told her that I was moving back in that conversation. That was the first time she had learned. And she was just like, that's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. All these things that nowhere in that conversation did she say, oh, you're a failure. Why on earth would you do that? Like, there was no negative in it whatsoever. But it's so easy for me to say there's so much negative in it, because it's easy to project the empathy and compassion and excitement for other people in their decisions, but to then return that and do it to yourself is so challenging. And so that's one of the things that I'm playing with, and with myself, with my client, in this, like, yeah, I'm 10 months into this journey and I've had this dream for 15 years, and I'm saying it's time to go back. That doesn't mean I've failed. That doesn't mean that I won't do this journey again sometime in the future. It just means that for this season of my life, there are reasons that are stronger to bring me back than there are to keep me here. And that's a
And just
win.
and just to be on the safe side, like I am truly happy for you, because I commend you for moving to England, and then like I totally get you. So it's
Yeah.
it's not that I am in a negative way
Oh
saying
no.
what. So
No, I don't I
but
don't get
but
that at all. It's just more of the learnings of even just taking the leap again. Like going back to skydiving and using that metaphor, it's like I am literally jumping out of the airplane again. I'm back in the air. I'm
yeah.
back in the free fall of, okay, how do I control the chaos of moving back home?
Oh my, it was just my question, because when you are up there, and when you were talking about the person you were talking to yesterday, it's just when you are in the moment, you are in the air, and you can't, like like it or not, you have to get down.
Yep.
But and you can't turn back. But as you were telling me about the woman you were talking to yesterday, like you just move, and if you don't like the place, move to another place, to another city, to another country. Like, just you have to experiment before you can say, like, oh no, I'm a failure. So, but how do you see a possibility in the no, I will reframe. Can we build confidence to reach a moment where we do stuff without hesitation? Where, okay, I'm not saying that, oh, I want to open a store, and then tomorrow I would just have a store, and you don't have any clue. Like, you have to prepare. That's all. But can we build the confidence to do stuff without, like, in the moment of without hesitation?
100% yes. And to do that, it just requires action, because confidence is not a requirement, but it's an outcome of action. So the more you do something, the more confident you get at it. And so I mentioned earlier, like, I spent years on self-development and personal awareness and all of these things, to the point where I know myself really well. I know how I tick, how I operate. And a couple of weeks ago, I was back in the States visiting friends and family. And the day that I flew back, I just had this deep gut, visceral feeling of, like, it's time for me to move back and be close to my community. And
Yeah,
it was literally,
you knew in your gut that it was the right thing.
yeah. And it was just, yep, that's the right thing. And we went to the airport. I'm sitting at the gate. I'm on my laptop. I'm applying for jobs. I'm looking for apartments. I'm, like, orchestrating all these things. And it was just like the decision had been made. It was just like, yeah, that's it. What do I need to
Yes.
do? How do I need to plan? How do I need to organize and sort?
Like Aishwarya says, every change brings great learnings and expansions. It is a personal choice. Of course, it is within you. It's always, but I think it's also, I think we have to mention it. Nothing is perfect in life, because
No.
you can move, and then you will be sad because it wasn't as what you expect, but then you take action and move again, or like
Yep.
it's a process.
It's a
So
process.
and Aishwarya, thank you very much. She is mentioning that is a one more wonderful session.
Yes. Thank you so much.
So and she says also we need to stick to our vision and intuition, because, and that is the thing, the intuition about something. We have to learn to trust our own intuition, but we also have to, as you were saying, sitting in the plane and your gut feeling says, yeah, it's right. But you haven't closed any doors.
Right.
And by that, I mean, like, you can come to Iceland next time. So, like, that would be much, much better for you. So,
I
because,
would love to. I would love to come to Iceland.
yeah, you could live here, and like then you meet a good partner, and we have maternity leaves and like loads of stuff, good stuff. Not as that is the aim, but because we are heading, like, we have about 5 minutes left. So what strategies, now I'm like, my tongue is starting, what strategies, what strategy, okay, can you say the word, Eric?
Strategy.
Thank you. Can people use to embrace uncertainty and risk while still making smart, intentional decisions? It's a big
It's
question.
it's a very big question. And from my experience, it's knowing yourself. So one of the biggest things that transformed this, like, the going from dreams to action, was just setting my own core values. Here's a list of 5 or 10 things that really resonate with me deeply. So the adventure, the risk-taking, the courage were top 3, but there was also creativity and fun. And like, I don't remember all of them that I had when I first did it, but I do it every year again. And so for this year, I only have 3 core values, and that's adventure, simplicity, and fun. If any action that I'm taking isn't hitting any one of those 3 things, it's not in alignment with the life that I'm trying to build. So this move back to the US, it's an adventure. There's some fun element in it for me now because I've done it once before, so I understand the process. But I think that's one of the biggest things that for me that has worked really well. But it's also some of the things that I work with clients on. It's just like, all right, how do you know yourself? What is your vision? What is your values? Because if you don't have the direction, if you don't have the compass, you could just be sort of wandering around in the dark, bumping your shin and hurting your toes and trying to figure it out and getting frustrated.
Yeah. Well, like Aishwarya says, like strategy
There it is.
should be like an inner calling.
Yeah.
It's something like you have to, as we say, nothing is perfect, and it's hard. The first 3 months in a different country is hard because you are getting to know the day-to-day routines, but when you get into it, you find the bakery you like, you find like all sorts of stuff.
Well, and
it's
there's things that pop up that you're like, there's no way I would have known to plan for that. So it's like finding an apartment. It's like I needed a UK bank account to be able to pay the deposit, but I can't get a UK bank account without an address. And so how do you get an apartment when you don't have a bank account? Like,
well, it's like catch 22. Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, you just learn how to roll with what's given to you right there. It's the gust of wind hits you right as you pulled the parachute, and you have to figure out, okay, let's figure out how to get back on course. Like,
yeah. Because nothing is easy. Like you have to go, but when you have done that, then you're getting the hang of it. But and then next time when you move to England back, like when you decide to go back, then you know stuff.
Right. It's this whole process, this 10 months has built the confidence, it's built clarity, it's built resilience. And I know that's what this next stage of life is going to build. It's going to build those 3 things. And having those building blocks is just going to make every single jump easier. And you'll be able to start to pick up the learnings. It's like that first jump was just like, free fall, hit the ground. Woo, that was fun. But it made the next one easier and the next one easier and the next one easier. And so again, to tie it back to skydiving.
And that is always in life. Like when you go for a new job, you are not the master of the job, but after a week, you feel like you have been there forever.
Right.
And then after 3 years, you have, like, it takes time to master something. So I applaud you, my young man, and I urge people to visit your website because it's the Eric Simpson, ericsimpsoncoaching.com, and they can contact you from there, and they can reach you on LinkedIn. And like, when is it? When are you due? When are you going back?
So I'm looking at last week of March, so about a month.
Oh, sorry. It's only like after 15 minutes. Like, Eric, it's just like good that I got you on my session. This is brilliant. Like, I'm just.
It was.
Here I thought that you would be an English person. Like next time, I would only meet you in in Manchester. So in okay, the last week of March or whatever, like, and what do you aim at? What is the dream of Mr. Eric Simpson?
Yeah, it's sort of I'm going back and like reinventing myself in essence. It's like yes, I love working with people and from a coaching perspective, but right now my books are closed. Like, I'm not taking on any new clients. And so it's like the next adventure is all about finding that stability, finding that next level of myself, and tapping into the thrill of, like, I have a career, like I worked for 5 years at Expedia, so like I have a love for travel and adventure and exploration. So how can I tap back into that love of like hospitality and travel and caring for people and serving people? So I'm kind of just open and exploring to whatever avenue comes my way.
And you will teach others, you will give back to
Yes.
others who are in the same, and because I think that now my daughter has been living abroad for 3 years, and I think everybody should try to challenge what they fear. Like,
Yes.
although I will not challenge myself to go skydiving, I will try something else.
Yeah.
It can be
Again,
whatever.
that was a multi-year process for me to get to the point of skydiving. And I'm not saying that's what everyone needs to do, but it's finding
No.
what that is for yourself and leaning into that edge, because it's going to
Yeah.
teach you so much more than just avoiding it entirely.
Yeah. So Aishwarya, she says, best wishes to Mr. Eric.
Thank you,
Ding, ding, ding,
Ashwarya.
ding. And then Linda, my favorite Canadian, amongst the favorite Canadians I know several. This has been an insightful, inspiring conversation. Thank you, Hedden and Eric. So, and people can reach out to you via the website, ericsimpson.com, and they can find you on LinkedIn, and they can get to know you wherever. And I think there will be an Eric Simpson chat 2.0 in the future, where we can get together in a year's time maybe and say, okay, how's life after UK? That would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun. More
I
laughs.
challenge you.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but then the time for you, if I'm still doing this at this time, then it will be a 7:30-ish in, in Seattle
Well, I'm not moving
in
back
the
to
morning.
Seattle.
Oh,
I'm moving to Chicago, so it would be 9:30 a.m.
well, hello. No. Oh, Chicago is on the East Coast. No, West
Central.
Coast.
They're right in the middle.
Oh, I'm thinking about Boston.
Yep.
So this is just fun. I don't know anything about US. But Eric, you're the best, because this is just, I think it's so healthy to just challenge yourself, do stuff. Don't be content with what you do, like, because it's always, and then when you meet the grandkids and say, like, when I was then I moved to Liverpool. And then you take the guitar and you say, yesterday. So thank you very much, to those who are listening, watching, and thank you, Eric. And like Aishwarya says, she's confident that every move helps us to real growth. And thank you for watching, Aishwarya. And just Eric, I am, somehow this is just mind blowing when you get over the fact that you went skydiving to figure out life, because I'm a chicken. So I just loved this discussion,
Me
and
too.
you just amaze me. And the fact that you're going back, I'm glad that I caught you before you went back. And I think really, I challenge you. We have to put we have to do an Eric Simpson 2.0 in the future.
I'm game.
And just all the best. Just stay safe. Take a plane, and you can fly to Iceland, do a stopover, and come to me, and then go to Chicago, because that's easy. But the next I just wanted, before we finish, I want to say the next time is Thursday, the 27th of February, and it will be Deborah Heiser, who was meant to be last week. So we will be talking about mentorship and unlocking growth through dynamic relationship 2.0, because I was alone in the previous chat. So now it will be fun to actually talk to her. So, but Eric, just, you are brilliant, and never think that you're a failure or whatever. The self-doubt, just kick it out.
Yeah.
This was a huge step. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. This has been so much fun. And I look forward to 2.0.